All right, welcome back everyone to today's Explainer. Today we're unpacking a character arc that is just absolutely defined by duty, devastating loss, and this really hard-fought journey toward redemption. We are tracking the incredible path of Senora Skyleaf, going from this literally lethal instrument of the state all the way to a humble protector of a quiet country town.
So to really get Senora, we have to jump right back to her time as a highly disciplined soldier for the Crystal Kingdom. I mean, she was deadly with both a bow and a blade, a true believer in the order she protected. She firmly believed in the absolute righteousness of the command she was given. And you know, for a soldier, having that absolute certainty in your orders, that's your greatest armor. But as we're going to see, that armor can be completely shattered in an instant when the dark reality of those commands is brought to light.
And that brings us right to the inciting incident of her entire tragic story. Senora was ordered to strike a supposed kingpin's safe house. As a totally loyal weapon of the state, she just unquestioningly believed the intelligence she was handed. The orders were brutal, but clear. Burn it to the ground. No survivors, no questions. And because of her deep-seated loyalty, well, she just followed those orders. She didn't hesitate for a second.
Let's walk through the timeline of that fateful night, because what starts as a standard military raid just spirals into a life-altering inferno. Hour 1, the strike order is given. Hour 3, the raid happens. Hour 4, the fire is set exactly as commanded. It's really only hours later, when the smoke finally clears, that the horrific truth actually comes out. Only then did she learn that the intelligence, or maybe the command itself, was just horribly, horribly wrong.
She was told, point blank, her target was a dangerous enemy of the realm. But the unimaginable truth? The supposed criminal inside that house was her own husband. Because she followed her orders to the letter, literally no survivors, the fire took him. I want you to just sit with the immense weight of that for a second. The very institution she trusted implicitly had manipulated her into destroying her own world.
When that fire took her husband, it completely incinerated her faith in the Crystal Kingdom. Shattered by guilt and just this ocean of grief, she realized she couldn't be their weapon anymore. She resigned her military commission, abandoned the capital entirely, and just vanished. She carried this incredibly heavy burden of sorrow, but also a brand new moral compass. And you see this massive psychological shift manifest physically. She unstrings her bow, lays down her sword, and trades all those lethal weapons for something that seems, frankly, totally harmless by comparison, a simple slingshot. But it's so vital to understand why she does this. It isn't a toy. It's a tool meant only to wound, to distract, and to protect. It is the absolute, literal embodiment of her new vow, never again to take a life. Fleeing the capital, she needed to get as far from the military banners and the stone walls of her past as possible, eventually settling in this quiet little country town called Apfeldern. And here, she needed a total reinvention. The name Senora belonged to a killer, to a soldier, so she became Sunny. It's a much gentler name, right? Adopted by a woman who was just desperately seeking some kind of peace. She integrated into local country life, living simply, trying to heal in a place where she couldn't ever really forget her history, but could at least try to outrun it.
In Apfeldern, she wasn't just hiding in the shadows, she actually built a real life, supported by close friends who became her emotional anchors. She bonded with Ivory Springs, this half-elf in her late 20s who runs the local potion shop, and Greta Van Fleet, who heads up one of Apfeldern's huge apple farming families. Through these women, Sunny became a true local. She held these friendships incredibly close to her heart and actually found this fragile, beautiful little rhythm in civilian life.
But, as we know, the quiet rarely lasts for people trying to escape war. This peaceful, pastoral existence was violently interrupted when a brutal army of gnolls just descended upon Apfeldern. The safety she had painstakingly built and the community she'd really come to love and rely on was suddenly thrown into absolute chaos and deadly peril.
And the escalation here is frantic. The Gnoll army tears through Apfeldern's meager little defenses almost instantly. But Sunny, she doesn't run, she stands her ground. Staying completely true to her pacifist vow, she fights back using only her slingshot, hyper-focused entirely on protecting her friends and neighbors, not on killing the invaders. And right when things seem their absolute darkest, hope actually arrives, in the form of a band of adventurers.
We're talking Cedric, Talinor, Thane, Okazaki, Roberto, and Calypso. Together with these totally unexpected allies, Sunny pushed back the gnolls and they saved whoever they could. But man, the victory was incredibly hollow, because despite their heroic stand, the battle took a massive toll. Apfeldern was left in ruins and entirely defenseless against any future threats. Which brings us to a deeply, deeply tragic irony in Sunny's story. Because Apelderm was left so totally defenseless, the survivors had to make an excruciating choice. They had to abandon their homes, and the only place equipped to actually take in refugees and offer true military protection, you guessed it, the capital. Totally against her will, Senora Skyleaf was forced to guide these shattered townsfolk back to the exact same city she had so desperately fled.
So, returning to the military stronghold where her absolute worst memories linger, it just brings her journey full circle. She's right back among the banners, the commands, and those imposing stone walls. But this time, she carries her past openly. She's no longer just Sunny, hiding out in the countryside. She is Senora Skyleaf, a woman who is broken by the system but has completely rebuilt herself on her own terms.
And I want to leave you with this thought as we wrap up this explainer. Now that she is right back where it all started, surrounded by the ghosts of her past and the literal military machine that took her husband, how is she going to use that pacifist vow to shape her future? Thanks so much for joining me to explore this backstory. It's just a brilliant example of how our deepest traumas can sometimes forge our most unshakable principles. Catch you next time.